Like many migrant Indians, my dad owned the local dairy. I think I see a few customers here tonight. From a very young age till my late 20s, the shop was a second home for me. I remember waiting for that last school bell and running down to that bus stop, catching that first bus, and going down to that shop, eager to be behind the shop counter and looking at what was the first lollies, the new lollies that's come in, the ice creams, and try it all. I thought it was fantastic. It was the best job ever. But I guess after a few years of doing this, working at the shop became a bit of a chore. I found out that, while my friends were on school holidays, having fun in the sun, I was back at the shop working away. I thought it wasn't fair, so I kind of missed out on a few things. But in hindsight, looking back, working at the dairy, I think I learnt quite a number of valuable things. The things that you had to work hard, there was sacrifices, you had to keep trying, and it was tough. Some valuable life lessons. When Dad retired a couple of years ago and decided to sell the shop, I was out of work. I needed to be a full-time photographer now. So I thought this would be a great time to start a new series. A series that looked at shopkeepers. This is not a portrait of my dad. This is Mr. Patel, a series called Open All Hours, and it was photographed in 2012. I think by doing these series, it was about the experiences I had as being a shopkeeper, and also the fact that it was about celebrating our local shopkeepers. Let me ask you this thing. When was the last time you guys interacted with your guys' shopkeeper? How many of you know their background? What is their story? I enjoy finding more about people and what their journey has been like and where they are now. Everyone, I think and feel, has a story to tell. In 2014, this is going back a little while, I moved from flatting in town, having a good time, and back to South Auckland. And early on, I realized, oh wow, there's so much opportunities and so many new faces. I could tell and have conversations with this new people, this new environment around me. So I started this year-long project where I photographed one person a day of someone that I never met before. Meet Diane. I met Diane while I was photographing these series on a Sunday afternoon, and she just finished selling rewa bread at the Sunday markets in Mangere Bridge. In this project, I photographed everyone using an iPhone and shared it via my Instagram account. And I wanted to do this simply because it was a way to be less intrusive, and it was not so much about the new camera that I was using, but more so about the conversation that I had with the person. In 2017, I was commissioned by an agency called Fresh Concept to photograph a series of people living in South Auckland. I specifically wanted to focus on my extended family who have settled here from Fiji. And I got this opportunity to photograph everyone inside their lounge, and hence why I call this series Loungescapes. What's interesting about this series is people do adapt things from where they were to where they are now. You can notice in this photograph there's certain hints of things where, um, you know, it's family memorabilia or ornaments that were not originally from Auckland. Uh, and that to me is quite interesting that, a viewer can look at this portrait and you can't necessarily say that it was photographed in Auckland. It could be either in Fiji or even India. And I guess that's what's mostly important is, for me, I think everyone has a story and you should ask about where they're from and their kind of background as well. Yeah, we're in the right series now. So meet Joe and Linda. Joe and Linda have been running their barbecue roast shop at the Māngere Town Centre for over 32 years. Now, last year I completed a series of portraits at the Māngere Town Centre photographing local business owners. And these portraits were exhibited at the Māngere Arts Centre. The project in general was called How Much Does This Cost? Now, that idea of, when you go into a shop, you pick up something, you go, hey, how much does this cost? So it was a bit of play on that, and also the idea of these business owners do have sacrifices, and the idea of, it does cost to run a small business. So the other thing that I noticed while doing this project was a majority of business owners were migrants and they made Auckland their home. When these photographs were exhibited in the art space, these portraits were quite big, not as big as that, but they were probably they were exactly 1.8 by 2 meters wide. So they were quite large portraits, and I wanted to kind of emphasize when people or the gallery visitor entered the space, they would be confronted by these larger-than-life portraits. And in a way, it was about putting focus into these small business owners that were now larger than life, and in a way of celebrating their achievements as well. What was actually quite cool and really humbling was seeing these shopkeepers, people that I photographed, going into this gallery space and seeing their portraits up on this wall in the gallery space, and being so proud that they're part of this big show that celebrates the community. So a recent project I was commissioned for was for Metro magazine. The issue is out now, so you guys should buy a copy. This article was about the Auckland property market and how things are really changing in our current state, and it focused on the suburb of Onehunga. So they commissioned me to go out and photograph people living in that suburb. What I found quite interesting and similar about me coming from South Auckland, Māngere, to going out to this different suburb, that there were similarities. People had moved from different suburbs. People had come from from overseas to make Onehunga their home. I guess the stories of relocating and resettling is a common theme with the people I've met and I've photographed. A lot of people take pride in where they're from and where they now call home. In my works, I love the fact that my photography can create conversations, and I can use my own experiences to capture portraits in my community. I think I'm quite privileged to be an artist that uses this medium of photography that documents not only a time and place, but especially the diverse communities we have here in Auckland. Thank you very much.